My theme is Gramsci and South Asia, and subalterns. And before I say that, I would like to take you to Chennai Express. In the film Chennai Express, you would have come across a dialogue frequently uttered by the hero. What is the dialogue? Don't underestimate the power of common man. That is my theme today. And I was surprised when I saw that film. I was taken aback by this dialogue. I thought, how could he corrupt it from Gramsci? Then I thought, obviously it comes from India's history. All these filmy stories, which Maratha, Sarukha, the screenwriter, not only even Gramsci. The point is, similar ideas expressed by India's historians. I give an example. If you read KCB, Swaraj and Ideas, KC Bhattacharya says clearly, the task of Swaraj and Ideas is to dig out the pulse-setting ideas of masses. Don't underestimate the pulse-setting ideas of masses. This point KCB was making. And similar ideas expressed by Tagore as well. So Gandhi's practice, Gandhi's writings also reflect that don't underestimate people's perception. You may criticize them, you may not share with them, not express similar ideas, but do not overrun, don't underestimate, don't condemn them. Criticizing somebody is not same as condemning something else. So that's the important thing to make. Respect wherever possible. So when I was working on Gramsci for last, almost 40 years, I worked on Gramsci. And finally I came with a book to take it on my life, take it on my career, academic career. I hope my life will not stop. So continue for another years. So I came with the book because I realized that last 40 years, Indian intellectuals have not woken up to Gramsci's concept of common sense. Reason why I published the book. That I am the only person who wrote down this common sense in 1988. The only person who repeated it in 2025. And quite sadly, most intellectuals have got the potential of politicizing Gramsci's concept of common sense. That's a very interesting point. Moreover, most of the Gramscian scholars have ignored Gramsci's salient contributions to religion. And once I asked Kaviraj, why Gramscian scholars are working on Gramsci's contributions to religion? Then he said, these Gramscian scholars are Marxist. They were not interested in religion. He made an interesting point, and besides that, Gramsci argued that, side point, why Gramsci is relevant in South Asia. Despite, I gave the example of Chennai Express and KCB, but the other point that is critical in Gramsci, which is not stated by any other thinker, that's similar, do not underestimate the power of common man. So do not glorify ideas of common man. So it's a theorization of common sense has a duality. Do not underestimate, do not add and glorify. You must avoid this dual path. Take a middle course. The typical Gramsci argue that you must take a middle course. This point is borrows from Aristotle. If you read carefully Aristotle's ethics, you will find what Gramsci says. Aristotle says, like Plato, says theory of doxa or opinion or perceptions. It's not one theory. There are two theories. For Plato, there is one theory. Doxa has to be, or opinion and perception must be transcended. Therefore, you must suppress it and overcome it. You can produce scientific understanding only by suppressing or underestimating. If I use Sarukha's language. That is Plato. The Platonic ideas are recalled throughout history. Most of the contemporary philosophers who underestimate common sense, they are shared the ideas with Plato. And those who are with Aristotle, they take Gramsci's position. Aristotle says, doxa is not one, doxa is two. There is a doxa, bad sense. There is endoxa, good sense. This is exactly what Gramsci says. So when I was teaching my students, Aristotle, I realized that there is Aristotle and Gramsci. Gramsci argued that most of us in socialist and liberal traditions didn't read Aristotle carefully. We didn't even understand when he says man is a social and political animal, a rational animal. We don't understand what he means by that. We have not paid exhaustive attention to that Ramsey's interest point. We have not examined that idea, why man is called so safe and rational and political animal. There has been no, by his present condition, when he was driven by insufficient documents, etc., he makes an interesting argument that it is important for us to develop a progressive ideology on the basis of Aristotelian conception of what he calls this rational, social, and political animal. But that is beside the point. Ramsey's argument that Aristotle's ideas are by and large ignored by us. So, as I said, doxa. Doxa is not one, two. Common sense is not one, two. This duality in common sense is duality in doxa. This is typical of Aristotle. No other thinker has highlighted this duality as Aristotle, as Ramsey. Hegel makes the point that Hegel is not very clear about that. Hegel gives a positive spin to common consciousness. But Ramsey will talk that is also necessary for a critical understanding of common sense. Common sense is a prejudicial sense. Common sense is a traditional sense. Common sense is reactionary, regressive, but at the same time, it also leaves behind positive, progressive, good sense. It is important for us to have the dual path to common sense. On the one hand, we must be critical of it. On the other hand, respect it, absorb it, inherit it, and develop a theory. This is what Aristotle and Ramsey call it. And we have not worked on Aristotle, most of us ignored Aristotle's theory of doxa. And most of us in India have undermined Ramsey's concept of common sense. Despite me writing in 1988, nobody has taken it up, especially in political science. Recently, Partha Chatterjee argues that Ramsey's concept of common sense is no more relevant. He is not otherwise he appreciated me in 88. By 2025, he takes a regressive decision. Common sense is no more relevant. The governmentality is so powerful, is so penetrative, it has captured common consciousness, it guides common sense of subaltern masses. Therefore, subalterns are caught with ruling ideologies. Therefore, there is no need to separately engage with common sense. This is incorrect. Reason why it's a very simple argument. Ramsey argues that no way hegemony can ever eliminate common sense. If you can't eliminate subalterns, you can't eliminate subordinity, it can't eliminate common sense. So common sense is a subjective expression of subordinity of all subalterns. This point is very important. If so long as subalterns exist, they know that they have subaltern experience, they know that they are subject to control, subject to hegemony, subject to domination. They know it. You don't need Ambedkar and Ramsey or Lenin to tell them that there is local Brahmanism who is oppressing them. Don't need Dalits, don't need Ambedkar for that. Similarly, workers don't need Ramsey to tell them why they are exploited factory. This is the beauty in Ramsey. Ramsey therefore said that what you find in common sense is threefold. Before I do that, let me stay with the other idea. I must continue the preface. The preface is very important. Ramsey also argues that if you look at the history of consciousness, there are three layers of consciousness. One, best, your common sense. Higher than common sense is religious sense. And highest is philosophical sense. Therefore, there are three forms of consciousness. One is common sense, second layer is religion, third layer is philosophy. It's a task of intellectual work or theoretical work, if I may rephrase theory. Task of theory making is to first discover common sense. How many of us done it? How many of us followed Ramsey's protocol that task of theory building is to first discover common sense, next religion. We haven't paid attention to religion, we also haven't paid attention to common sense. Only then we should proceed to examine philosophical systems. The third level, we should examine the Ramsey's protocol is, you must start with, I began my career in common sense, I ended with some career in common sense. If you don't examine common sense, you will not find time to come back to it. Suppose you begin with works on Ambedkar. How many works on Ambedkar give a picture of Dalit common sense? None. How many works on Gandhi give a picture of common sensical ideas of Swaraj?